Hey now, it's Rob here from Rob's School of Music, and today on the podcast, I'm talking with Pete Thorn. See you on the other side. Hey now, guys, thanks for tuning in to another podcast. I'm sorry it's been a while since we uploaded anything. It's been absolutely crazy here at the school. We've been still doing our weekly Instagram Live interviews, and we've racked up a ton of great material that I just need to upload into these podcasts. But with COVID and everything, being shut down and all of our lessons online, it's just been taking up a ton of time and all the lesson prep and stuff. I also put out a couple of songs with my band Heated Exchange. In the break here, we had one called Outbreak, and then another one called How Many Times. You can check those out on Spotify, Apple Music, and stuff. Also, it was actually really incredible. PRS Guitars, whom I've been affiliated with since the late 2000s, did an incredible interview with me regarding the school and Heated Exchange. You can check that out at prsguitars.com. But back to the school, we've been doing these online lessons since mid-March. We've done about 2,500 of them since then, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Every one we get better, multiple camera angles, lighting. We're taking on students literally from around the world at this point. We had an incredible music wizardry camp where we had a music teacher from Sweden to teach about audio production, a guitar class come out of Arizona, an audio production and songwriting drum recording class, I should say, coming out of Florida. It's actually been really, really cool. But back to the podcast. Today I'm talking with Pete Thorn. Pete is someone I really look up to when I put together my list of people I wanted to, be able to communicate with in this forum or format, I should say. He was one of at the very top just because his YouTube presence is incredible. His interview was the first that I've been doing now that no longer run Instagram Live. Now we're doing the interviews. They're airing on Facebook.com/Rob School of Music, YouTube.com/Rob School of Music, as well as Twitch. It just gives us better audio quality, better video quality, and the ability to live stream while we're recording to multiple places at once. So hopefully you guys will notice that the audio has improved considerably and the conversation runs a bit smoother because we're not dealing with Instagram hiccups and audio bit crushing and garbling and stuff. So thanks for checking this out. I was really excited. Pete was incredible. And coming up, we have some great ones coming. We're doing Bumblefoot round 2, Mark Lettieri round 2, Andy Timmons round 2, Nick Perry. It's just going to be really great. But it starts here. On the other side of the music, my conversation with Pete Thorn. You are live.
And here we are.
Here we are. All right. So here I am. It's Rob here from Rob's School of Music talking to the legendary Pete Thorn.
Legendary nerd.
That we're all nerds, man. I mean, surrounded by more guitars and pedals than I can count. So that's a term of endearment, I think.
Totally.
So, we're a music school. We're based out of a town called Suffern in Rockland County, New York. We're like 40 minutes outside of New York City. And, when the pandemic hit, we moved all of our students online, and cool. We actually, New York, when everything went crazy and this started to get really, really real, the second death in New York State actually occurred in our town prior to New York City getting crazy.
Wow.
So we kind of got ahead of it, moving everything virtual. And I think that's been a way that we've kind of survived, and we, use multiple camera angles, and there's 9 teachers in total. So it's been really great.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah. So we've been doing things like this just to kind of give our students sort of a lifeline out to the world and some of our musical heroes, and just kind of shoot the shit and see how it goes.
Hey, it's all we can do these days is sort of, sit in front of cameras and make videos and stuff. But it's cool. I mean, I've been practicing even more. Like yesterday, I sat here and worked on, there's that new feature on Instagram, or actually just on an iPhone, where you can screen record, and it's super easy. And so whenever I see anybody do anything crazy on Instagram now, I'll just screen record that. And then I'll bring the video into my computer, and then I can, I guess this is stuff we can talk about. Like, how are you practicing and stuff?
Yeah.
I'll bring the video into the computer, and I'll use transcribe to play the audio, slow it down. And then I can learn crazy licks and stuff like that, what people are doing. So
that's really smart, actually. I'm going to start doing it.
it's pretty cool. It's like, screen record the Instagram video, bring it in, and then you can play the video in QuickTime that you brought in. But then you can also, and transcribe is you might know, it's a 7th String is the company, and it's great. It's $49 or something, and I use it so much. It's like a phrase trainer essentially that you can slow things down, right? And so I use that all the time. So I'll bring the audio into there, and then I can slow down the crazy licks and watch the video at the same time. Oh, that's what they're doing. Okay,
Yeah.
been doing stuff like that, that I never would. I mean, maybe when I'm on the road, I would do stuff like that or something, but we just had all this time to practice, and it's crazy times. But
that's something that we've kind of tried to, and that's been a running theme with all the different musicians I've gotten to speak with. It's like, this is a gift of time that hopefully we'll never get again, but let's use it as best we can to try and just be better,
Yeah. I mean, what else can you do? It's like, it's a good time to take up any kind of hobbies, learning something, foreign language, play guitar, whatever it is that you,
We had a huge influx of students, right when it first got crazy, because people were just, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And we've been here for that. So it's been incredible.
That's good. Yeah.
One of the big questions I try and ask, just to jump off, is, obviously you've played some epic stages along the way. And one of the, a lot of our students are students. They're, young, not necessarily in age, but just in experience as a musician. And back when you could do gigs, we would always put them together, package them into different bands, and book them performances at, there's like a big street festival sort of thing, or local restaurants and bars. And anxiety, stage fright is obviously a huge factor. Do you have any tips to overcome that sort of stuff?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the number one thing to always remember is that the crowd is there to see a show, and they've got your back. Like, they're there stoked. So they're not against you or something, I mean, like, unless it's like, those guys at guitar shows or something where it's like, show me, impress me. No, I don't know. For the most part, people they want to have a good time. And so you've kind of got them like out of the gate. They just want to have fun. So, so they know that they're not your enemy or something. They're there to support and hopefully have fun. And know that also that what comes out of a PA especially when a full band is playing, is always a little more washy, and it's unfortunate unfortunately, but the unfortunate part is we live in this YouTube, Instagram world where people film things and put them up a lot,
right?
Which is always a drag, because it never sounds as good as being there, and it always sounds small and clinical coming out of little phone speakers compared to. But if you have to take into account that the people that are there at the gig, it just kind of comes out in a wash of sound and coming out of the PA, and it's always kind of amazing. Like, to me, I remember seeing a band play in a club once, and there was kind of punk rock band. The sound wasn't too great in the club; it was like punk rock, and but they're playing, and they get to the end of the song and they stop, and it was kind of cool, had attitude and stuff. It was these twin sisters, I remember, that played guitar and bass, and they had a guy drummer. And I remember listening to them; they were kind of fun. The Sisters Grimm, they were called. This is in LA many years ago. If anybody remembers, it was in LA. They were like a punk rock duo. But anyway, they were playing this song, and I was like, oh, that was cool. And then after the song, the guitar player went to go tune, and I was like, oh my God, the guitar is so out of tune. But in the context of distortion and a punk rock song with loud singing and the drums going and everything, I couldn't really, it struck me like I didn't really notice that when they were playing, like as much as when it was, when you heard the guitar out of context. Now, so it's like the stuff that comes out, like things that I've played, and then I've heard recordings of later, and I've been like, oh God, I hit the bum note or whatever or something. And then you hear a recording of it later, and it never sounds as like blatant as it did to you, like,
right.
So you just kind of got to move on from that and know that it's live, and it's not get too in there. Now, I've had moments of, like, I kind of went through like some moments of stage anxiety kind of stuff, actually kind of late on, like after I'd already had big gigs and stuff and already been doing stuff, and had to learn how to deal with that. And one thing that I found was, one guy I found really inspiring is Jack White, because Jack White does not care. He does not give a, he just does. When things happen on stage and there's mishaps and things, he turns it around and uses it to his advantage. And I first started to realize this around the time that the movie It Might Get Loud came out with.
Love that movie.
Yeah, it's great, right? and some of the things he sort of says, and it's a great instructional movie. I mean, it's kind of, he embodies like this confidence in that movie, and he'll say things like, I don't know if you remember the moment in the movie where they're kind of doing it like it looks like an acoustic tour or something. They're playing for like a bunch of old folks that maybe it looks like a Shriners thing or something. Yeah. And they're playing and they're playing for this audience, and his voice, there's voiceover as with the music in the background, you can see them performing. He's talking, and it's a lesson in confidence. I mean, he's saying, the people come, they want to see a show. Like, so you better give them a show. They're there to see a show. So like, he's like, if I know that the piano, that it takes, if I got to put the piano here and then it's going to take me 1 second or whatever to get to the microphone, I'll put the piano, like to get there in time, he'll put the piano another foot away. So he has to jump to get to the mic in time, so that it's like he's performing, and it's exciting. So he'll make it kind of hard on himself intentionally, so that he's got to work up there, which makes, comes off as more like a show. And there's another part in the show where he talks a little bit about Son House and how that was his favorite. He said, "This is my favorite record," and he's holding up an album that's a Son House record, and his favorite song on there is just stomping and vocals. That's all it is. It's a blues song, but so Son House is singing and stomping his foot, and he's like, so there's not even a guitar in this. He's like, that's all there is. Cool. But that's a song. And so there was this moment where the White Stripes, you could find it probably on YouTube, but where the White Stripes were on the Conan O'Brien show for a week, from Monday through Friday. And they performed every night for a week. And on the last night, the Friday, I remember seeing this. He ran over to Conan's desk during the guitar solo and took his guitar off and laid it flat down, and then played like a ripping kind of slide solo in front of his face, super showy, like awesome. Once again, in the spirit of he's going for it, he's going to perform, which, I love that. And then on his way back to get over to the vocal mic, because it's just Meg and him, it's White Stripes, so it's drums and guitar, that's it. On his way back, he somehow screws up. I don't know if the wireless pulled out of the guitar. He was obviously using a wireless, I guess, because long distance to the right. So something happened, and the guitar was dead all of a sudden. Right? It's TV. It's like, what do you do? Yeah. Throws the guitar down and grabs the vocal microphone and finishes the performance.
So cool.
Drums and vocals. And it's better. It's like better it happened that way, It's like, wow, that was, because I remember that. How many things have you seen on TV, And it's like the performance is just, that one I remember because he was so badass, and the way that he owned it in that moment. So in that moment, he had a split-second decision. He figured out what to do, and once again, the crowd's got your back. So if something bad happens or something, you can either shrink or you can rise to the occasion and somehow turn it into a positive. Yeah. And so I find him very inspiring. And if I'm on stage and I maybe get a tinge of that fear or whatever, I try and think about him. Actually, wow. Like a spirit animal, rock and roll spirit animal.
Jack White's your spirit animal. I love that.
Yeah, and I'm not even like a huge fan. I like some of the music and stuff, and it's more his attitude that I'm a fan of, and his spirit, And it's like I really appreciate his approach when it comes to all that stuff, and it's helped me greatly. So if you can think of anybody, like if you're in a moment of stage fright or whatever, that it's like, what would I don't know, who anybody you can think of that's a hero of yours do in this moment to turn it into and he's the one for me, because he's a great one, because it's so raw. He's not like a technically perfect guitar player or super, it's all attitude. So it's like, which is like a really great place to go to if you're feeling insecure, is like, remember that it's more about the attitude and your approach in the moment than it is about playing all the right notes and all that stuff. At the core of it, it's a performance, and people are there to be entertained. There's a showbiz aspect to it, Definitely. And to go into that when you're nervous and just push through and come out the other side, is a great place to go, I think. So that's
I love that, man. That's fantastic, because, one of the things that we try and say to them as they're about to do it, and something that I personally have done, on the gigs I've done in my life, is it's as though I'm an actor, not that I'm not really a musician, but I'm playing a role, and my role is just this psycho that's going to do whatever. And that's 100%. So that's very validating. Thank you.
I say that too. actually. That's in that being a sideman many times is like being an actor. It's like you're learning a role and you're in a stage play and you're performing a part, you know, and you're going to, you know, embody that lick or whatever that part is. And you're going to play it to the, you know, there's improvising involved in sideman gigs too. But a lot of it for me, you know, is learning parts and playing the parts of other people and that things have been recorded on record. So, so that's, and somebody taught me that it's sort of like being an actor and you're, you know,
yeah,
I think a lot of truth to that. Yeah.
100%. I'm trying to think where I want to jump around. I'm going to go to the beginning and then we'll get back to the sideman stuff. So what for you was it, when you first started playing music, what was there a particular record or a concert you went to, something where you were like that, I want to do that?
Yeah. I started out as a massive Who fan. So I guess that really probably tells a lot of the tale when it comes to maybe why I bonded with why I brought up the Jack White thing right away. To me, he's kind of almost like a Townsend kind of character in a way, just aggressive rock and roll guitar. So it was the Who for me that really was the first stuff I ever learned on guitar, and I loved Pete Townsend. But I was also a huge Beatles fan. I started collecting Beatles records when I was a kid. There was a kid that moved in my neighborhood when I was young that I was about 10 and he would have been 14, I think. And he was kind of a little bit of a savant, kind of almost like he could play keys and guitar quite well at that age already. And he didn't really play that much guitars, mainly keys, but he was also a big collector of records. So he knew a lot about music. And so think about a 14-year-old kid that had a record collection that spanned like, you know, Frank Zappa and the Who and Van Morrison and the Beach Boys and like tons of like really great music. And he really taught me how to listen to music. I think he didn't have a lot of friends when he moved into town and he was kind of a, you know, like a bit of a loner, but I lived down the block and he was nice enough to hang out with me and teach me some stuff about listening to music. And so I became a big Beatles fan through that. And that was first. And then he also showed me my first chords on the guitar. My mom, I was getting interested in music and stuff and starting to collect Beatles records and things. My mom rented me a guitar for a couple of weeks to see if I was interested in, you know, like she didn't want to buy one. Like she was like, here, I'll rent one and see if he practices at all. And then if so, then we'll buy him one. And sure enough, I totally got the bug. But that's where it all started. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, you know, having the music school here, a lot of parents will come in and the first question, they're, you know, I want to get my kid a nice guitar. I'm like, well, what's a nice guitar? How much you want to spend, you know? And they're like, well, how long will it take before they get good? You know, how many weeks? How long do I have to sign them up for? I'm like, oh, the rest of their life, maybe. I'm not sure, you know, how much time you want to put into it. What's your practice routine like? You still, I mean, I'm sure you're learning stuff every time, but like how much of your day is devoted to growing?
You know, I feel like most of my, like I don't practice enough, and I've been sort of committing to, like I just mentioned, recording the little videos up Instagram and stuff. And so that's a new thing that I just started doing a few days ago. I'm really disorganized though. When it comes to like learning for tours and things, like if I've got an upcoming, you know, like last January, I did a tour with a group in the UK called the Classic Rock Show. And it's basically like a celebration of great rock.
You were not at NAMM because of that. I was bummed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I had to stay. Yeah. Well, I was in the UK for about 8 weeks or 7 weeks or something doing this run. But so I had to learn like, I don't know, I guess it was about 25, you know, great classic tunes, you know, some of them I already knew from playing in cover bands and stuff like that. But, you know, when it's something like that happens, I'll go to work like 3-4 tunes a day, you know, start listening. And my routine in that situation, when I know I've got material to learn, is I'll try and absorb 2 or 3 a day or 4 a day if I have to, you know, and depending on how much time I got before the first rehearsals or gig or whatever. And I'll try and get 2 or 3 down. If it's, let's say I got enough time, like I got at least a month. Okay, I'll start learning like 2 or 3 tunes a day. And by learning, I mean sitting down, playing through the songs, getting quite familiar with them, getting like 85% of the way there, like 90%. And then maybe I'll move on to another one. And I'll do that with like 2 or 3. The next morning, I'll come back and revisit those because I kind of can't remember them the next day. I don't know if you're like me at all, like I'll come back and listen to them. And my method for learning is using phrase trainers, you know, loading in, slowing down the solo section so I can hear them clearly and that kind of thing. Also referencing other YouTube videos that teach, you know, YouTube's amazing for learning.
Sure is.
Yeah. always look for the video that's got the most views with the least dislikes, and that's probably pretty accurate. You know, you learn pretty quickly like who the go-to guys are on YouTube that you can check out for, you know, to learn songs and stuff. And so I'll do that and use YouTube videos, use the original recordings, use live recordings, whatever I can to try and figure out, you know, what was going on. And I'm not a great reader, so I don't really go that route that much, but occasionally, you know, I'll look at charts or something if they're provided. And then, so learn the 2 or 3 tunes in a day, come back the next morning, review, and then really try and get them. Like, so it's like, now I'm nailing. Cause you know, I always find that I need to sleep on stuff. When I learn something, you know, if I, like I said, I'm trying to get it 85, 90% of the way there, and then I'll come back to it the next day, and then I'm like, how did that, oh, I don't really even remember this song that well. And then you play it once, you go, oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah. And then the licks start, and then like they're getting cemented in your brain then at that point after a night of sleep. And then I do the same thing the next, so then I'll move on to 3 more tunes after the review. 3 more tunes that day. Next morning, review those, add 3 more. And I'll do that until I've got about 9 or 10 songs. And then I'll spend the next day after I've got 9 or 10 reviewing those ones. Cool. Go over those tunes, get them in there, make sure they're cool. All the while, I'm generally speaking, I'm programming my pedal board and getting my sounds together and stuff at the same time and getting those moves, you know, okay, I need a separate sound for the chorus for this song, and going to need a delay for the, you know, a gain boost or whatever for the solo. So let's make that. And I go in and I program all that stuff. And then, day of review, then I'll try and take a day off maybe from it. And then I'll go back and start with another 3. And so that whole process maybe to learn a set of tunes, depending on if it's, you know, depends how many songs if it's 20, 30 songs, sometimes it's 50 songs of the, you know, you never know. But I'll just do that process like that, you know, learn, review, day off, learn, review, day off. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Go on. I cut you off.
I was just going to say, so that's practicing. That's my disciplined practicing for learning songs for gigs. As far as approaching new techniques and stuff, I'm so haphazard with like learning new, like, you know, I would love to take, I've got friends right now that are taking classical guitar lessons and doing different things that I should really be, you know, I feel like at times it's like, why don't I should hone in on that and like do something, you know, finally like learn jazz or something, you know, and I don't do a hell of a lot of that. So my latest thing is just a little Instagram riff thing where I'm like, I want to know how to do what that guy's doing. So I'll make a video of it and bring it into the computer. And I did one of those yesterday. And so I'm trying, but I get distracted. And a lot of my life these days with the lockdown has been making videos for YouTube for, you know, many times it's products I'm reviewing. I've always got like a backlog.
You've been very prolific with your releases. It's very cool.
Thanks. Yeah. And it's like a lot of time sitting here writing, and, you know, and so my time, I guess, practicing would be, I guess I'm writing. I spent a lot of time writing on the guitar as opposed to writing music and then recording it and producing it, as opposed to practicing here's this new sweep lick or whatever.
Right.
You know,
dude, I got to tell you, it almost feels as though this was rehearsed because everything you're answering leads right into the next thing I was going to say.
Oh, cool.
So from, you know, as a teacher, you know, I'm teaching, you know, tons of lessons a week. But for me, prior to the lockdown, my practicing was learning songs. I was in a high-end corporate band doing, you know, events and things like that. So sure. Constantly it's just new material, same thing, breaking it down, programming the pedal board, whatever it's going to be. And then during the lockdown, that's frozen. So we've been writing music and releasing music. So my practice was learning songs and now writing songs. And that's something I'm trying to implore into a lot of the students is, if that's the right word, I'm not sure, but tell them to do, you know, as long as the instrument's in your hands and your sound is coming out of it, you're learning, you're practicing, something is happening. If I say, you know, practice Dorian mode and you don't, but you come out with a cool little lick, you practice the guitar, I'm happy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It means different things to different people practicing. Everybody's got maybe different goals on the instrument and what, you know, where they want to get with it.
Definitely.
You know, so I find that fascinating. It's the rebel instrument. I mean, there's no right and wrong way to do it, you know?
So you say your reading is not super duper strong. Is theory a big part of what you do? Or is it more just feel based, or what's your approach?
I'd say it's more feel based at this point. I mean, I know I went to MI and I've got you know, basic theoretical knowledge so that if I'm playing a chord or I make a chord or something, I can go, okay, what chord is this? And then I can go, oh, it's this interval and this interval and this interval. Okay, that makes sense. It's a six, some sort of inversion of a 6/9
Right.
chord or something, and I can figure that out. I still feel like I'm really slow at that stuff, though. To be honest, I'm more of a rock and roll knucklehead, like
Yes.
a player by feel.
My favorite type.
That's really how I grew up. Learning by probably a bit more like from the, I don't know, like I hear about two guys I could think of, maybe like Clapton or Billy Sheehan. He's another one that says, I don't really know scales, but I know where my fingers should go. Like
Right.
I know where the next note, what to play, but I don't know what to call it. So, and
sounds good. That's what it's called.
yeah. Whatever sounds good, I find that interesting, that style of playing, but there's always more to, so I get so inspired by watching some of these players, like, Andy Wood's been putting out some great lessons on YouTube, and his technique is so ridiculous, flawless, and he's got a great overall grasp of everything from, metal shred stylings to country, and his bluegrass playing's off the charts. And plays with really great mandolin. I find that amazing.
Yeah, there's all these guys out there, and I think that social media has provided such a platform for, like, when I was growing up, if you liked Metallica, you liked Metallica. And if you wanted to learn a Steely Dan song, all your friends would say, why? Whereas now it's like people are jumping from genres and styles, and it's all within one scope. And that's so fascinating to me and inspiring, because it opens all these doors. The possibilities are endless, and no one's going to say no. They're going to say, how did you do that? Which is great.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see like a player like Mateus Asado, fellow Serb player. That guy's amazing, and he started out mostly playing metal, I think, kind of like shred, and then he got he heard John Mayer, and and from that he became like into this, what's this whole like kind of like he goes, he told me, he said, I didn't know anything about Stevie Ray Vaughan or Hendrix, or it was John Mayer, because he's of that age.
Wow. Yeah,
that was his vehicle to that style, and he just took it to such a great place, the whole kind of, he's one of those, amazing neo soul, if you want to give it a, but he's so liquidy on the guitar, but he can still, bust out the crazy shred licks, with, give him some gain and stuff. So it's really interesting that, I think, and I think that's cool, because I think that, too much of the shreddy thing gets, it just, it gets old or whatever, like the, just distorted rock guitar. That's great too, but it's like, it's great if you can mix it up and do different things. I think of somebody like Steve Vai, he's amazing like that. Guitarists with, well, like I say, Andy's another good example. But you can rip on bluegrass, give him a D28 and nothing else, and he can wail on that, or a mandolin, or give him an electric guitar that's dropped in, and he can play shreddy, like he can get into that and totally rip on the electric guitar. So it's cool,
definitely.
People in other musical, I mean, when I think about some of the, even what's going on in like hip hop or like different styles, they're totally about that. I mean, think about a song like Old Town Road or whatever, right? I mean, it's like this, that's what people are doing. They don't care anymore. There's blending sounds and, blending styles, and it's amazing.
That's why I think it's incredibly liberating. I always try and tell, like, the average age of our student here is about 20 or so years younger than me. So I look at them at this mirror. I grew up in the town where the school is physically located. So a lot of our students, at least prior to everything being online, now we're teaching people around the country, but a lot of our physical students were, still attending the same school that I went to. And I'm like, guys, you don't understand. Like, back then it was so one dimensional, and now genres don't matter. Nothing matters. You can just be and do anything. Pick a piece of audio here, throw it there, chop it up, throw it. It's so incredibly liberating and exciting. It's an exciting time to be playing music, I think.
Yeah. Having said this, I wrote an article a while ago for Premier Guitar called "Is Rock Eating Itself?" Because I do feel like at the one genre where, and it's maybe part of the, I don't want to say decline, but you've seen other genres kind of take over in the popular, a little bit more. And the article was basically based on when you had the Beatles, or you had, Led Zeppelin, or you had, even like a band like Sabbath, like the influences were pretty diverse, like, because it was at the dawn of that stuff. So it was like, the Beatles were drawing from vaudeville and, on the McCartney, whatever he heard at home from his parents playing and stuff. And then also Lennon in the band with this hardcore Elvis and, like American rock and roll influence. And then George with Indian music. And it was like, and they pulled it all into this thing that came out as the Beatles. It was amazing. Sabbath, similar. I mean, I think there was some diverse, like some interesting, so within the context of a hard rock band, they actually had ballads and stuff that were pretty like, you know what I mean? It was like, there was going like, what was the Sabbath song, Changes or whatever, which was like this beautiful ballad, and then or Diary of a Madman, by Ozzy, right? So you had Randy Rhoads and this obviously classical guitar,
right?
So they just embraced all that stuff and put it all, and then as rock kind of goes on into I think what happens, especially through the 2000s, 2000 to maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago or whatever, even you had a lot of these bands that were like, well, who are your influences? Like, well, we're influenced by Sabbath and Guns N' Roses or something. It was like, that was it, like kind of the pool of what people were drawing from was maybe less and less and less. I'm just talking about in rock in general. I saw that in a lot of rock bands,
Sure.
To the point where I don't want to rip on them too, because I think there's some great things about them. A band like Greta Van Fleet or something, it was so Zeppelin Drive where
we can rip on them. It's allowed. It's okay.
Well, I mean, I appreciate kids playing rock. I think that's great. I think there's a lot of positives. There's a lot more right going on than wrong. But the reality is, if your only influence is apparently like Zeppelin or maybe and maybe Deep Purple or something or whatever, if that's it and that's all you're drawing on, then you're going to sound like that distilled down into something that's not quite as adventurous as they were.
Well said.
I don't know, so like if you can pull from all these places and get, it doesn't, I've learned that people are, I guess metal fans can be somewhat closed-minded or somewhat, if you put out a metal record and then you try and do something a little more experimental, maybe we liked it when you sounded like this,
Right. Yeah. Like, how dare you grow?
Yeah. Chris Cornell faced a lot of that. I think where it was like, he had and he was, just, I feel like starting to really break ground with breaking out of that whole thing. But, he faced a lot of that that he even, related to me where he said, a lot of people focus on this one thing I could do. It's right. One thing that he could do. And he's like, that's not really what I'm about. Like, there's a lot of other things I'm interested in, and things that I can do. And it's like, I don't want to keep doing that thing over and over again. Only that's great. I mean, I can do it sometimes, but there's other things I'm interested in.
Sure. So, and it was great to see him, in the solo work, see him go in different directions and just try different things. How did you get that gig? What was like it was an audition. With the internet these days, everything's gone so online, and there's so much that you can do and reach the whole world by just being on YouTube or being on it. It's amazing. You can go around the world, but there's some things that you still just have to be physically present in the music community, right,
to get, to where you want to be. Maybe and one of those things is like occasionally on an audition will happen and they're going to pick from a pool of players that's local. And so that's LA, so being in LA, I got a email one night and it was middle of the night. I was actually working in the studio. I was working with Courtney Love, and
cool.
It was it was 12:30 when I got the email and said, if you want to, and I'd heard that maybe the audition was going to happen. But this was very last minute. So I thought, okay, one of these days, maybe I'll get an email and it'll be, saying, okay, it's in a week and whatever. It said it was like, if you want to audition for Chris Cornell, you need to be at this rehearsal studio tomorrow at noon and know these 5 songs. And 2 of them were new songs that I'd never heard before that were off an upcoming solo album. So I thought, I've got 11 and a half hours to learn 5 songs and go do the audition. Wow. And I'm still I'm still working. So I think we got out at about 1 a.m. and I went home and just set to learning, and got my pedal. Do the same process I was just telling you about, but in a rush fashion in the middle of the night. And learned the tunes as best I could, got 3 hours of sleep, woke up, kept practicing, went to the audition. And
is he there for the audition?
He was there the first day. Yeah. Which was impressive. I've done a lot of these ones before, and you'll get a call back maybe, and then maybe the artist will be there like after they've kind of weeded through some videos and stuff, and they'll call back, 4 or 5 people or something. But no, he was there right from day one. and I played with them that day. After 11 hours
Awesome.
after hearing about it or whatever, I played those, Spoon Man and Like a Stone and Cochise, and then 2 songs that were off his record. And so I got a call back for the next day, went back, did the call back, and then I got a call back again 4 or 5 days later to go back and do a third one. And that was the day that they hired the band. So
Cool.
yeah, it's a hell of an adventure.
I can imagine, man. Like, are you at that point, are you expected to learn the entire back catalog, or is it, here's the songs you need for the tour that's coming up? And
we never stopped learning throughout the whole, the touring sort of period that I was real active in was about 3 years from that point. We basically started from that day, and then that I got hired, and then the next 3 years was my thing. And we never stopped learning it to the point where we had about 110 songs at one point.
Wow, that's epic.
Yeah, like a little while ago, our drummer posted he had a master list with tempos all written out, with a reference tempo, and he posted that list, and it was 109 or 10 songs of all the songs we'd learned. And so that was towards the third year, but we started with about, as my memory of it is, about 38 tunes before we hit the road. So I don't know why it's so specific, but maybe because it was 38. Yeah. That's so we'd learned 9, I think, for the audition process over the course of that. So we learned 4 or 5 for the first audition, and then did the callback, and then we did the next callback, and he added 3 or 4 songs by then to the third callback, and so we were up to about 9 tunes that day, and so we had those from the day we got hired, and then we learned about another 30 or something.
Wow.
So we had 3 weeks to do that. So it was a really magic period, actually, because we'd get an email each night. First they hired us, about 5 p.m. I remember, after getting out of the rehearsal studio, the manager called us, said, "Okay, he wants to hire you." So we worked out some details and stuff, and I just hung up the phone, and I was like, I'm playing with Chris Cornell.
Right.
And then we got an email that said, like, "Okay, these are the 3 songs for tomorrow, and each night we'll send you 3 MP3s in your email." And so next day was like, it'd be like Black Hole Sun and Say Hello to Heaven and, one of his solo tunes, and it'd be like every day. And I'd be like, holy shit, I get to go play these 3 songs with this guy tomorrow.
Crazy. And
I just feel every day was like, like that. Next day is going to be Rusty Cage and, Jesus Christ Pose and something else. It's like, okay, so we'd rehearse from about 11 until maybe 4 p.m. or something. Not too long, 10 or 11 till 4 or 5 p.m. Go home, get 3 more in the email, work on a few tunes that night. So we had a fairly long, get 4 or 5 hour rehearsal day with a break, and then, a period at night where I'd probably spend 2 hours learning, a couple more songs, a few more songs, get up the next morning, go to and tackle them.
It's such an epic kind of gig because the Soundgarden material is incredibly challenging. Then the Audio Slave stuff is challenging in a very different way. And then the solo stuff is an entirely different animal. So to be able to be one human being and cover such a range is very incredible.
Thanks. It was a really, really good band. Everybody had a kind of a cool role that we, personalities. I mean, it really became a band, and everybody did a great job. And it was just like you're right. It was wide. I mean, everything from, When I'm Down to, like I said, Jesus Christ Pose or something. It was a wide, there was piano, jazzy, all the way through to full on, down-tuned, craziness. But that made it fun. And I guess we were all used to that because everybody'd done gigs, everybody was pretty experienced touring. Corey was actually quite young at that point. Corey's gone on to play with Neil Young now, and Promise of the Real. He's a bass player, so he's a really. But he was, in a way, Corey was probably one of the best educated musicians in the band. He had a music school education, and he could play good guitar, and he had a bit of a jazz background and stuff. But he had a pretty deep knowledge, even though I think that was his first real big touring gig at that point. And Jason Sutter had played with a whole bunch of bands already at that point, done a bunch of tours and stuff. And Yogi had also, the other guitar player, had played with Buck Cherry, and who else did he play with? He played with Anastasia, did a bunch of pop gigs. Wallflowers, I think he toured with at that. So it was a pretty experienced band, really.
Yeah, I met him, geez, like early 2000s. I used to, back when I was touring, we would always book shows. If ever we were in LA, we would play the Cat Club, and we always try and play there on a Thursday night so we could see the Star Effers at the end of the night. And he was there one of the nights. I'm like, whoa, hey. And then we just bullshitted a little bit, but it was cool.
Yeah. He's a good dude. Yeah, he's a great player.
Can I ask some gear questions?
Yeah, sure.
So obviously, signature guitar, signature amps, signature pickups. Like, what's that process like? Like, are you given, say for the guitar, like, are you down to the type of fret wire, wood combinations? Like, how does, because we've spoken to a couple Ibanez and Dorseys and someone else along the way, but Sir is so, very fancy guitars.
Let me grab one of my, I've got my classic here that's not my actual signature model, but I've got over here. Actually, I can show you. See, yeah, I have it here. This is the guitar that my signature was based on. Let's start with guitars. Okay, I was at Sir one day, and they had a guitar that they'd made called the Mahogany Deluxe, and I'd seen it before in photos, and I always thought it was really cool looking. But it was I don't usually go for the flame tops on Strat style guitars, but it had that like a flame top, and it was a cool kind of dark brown sort of finish, and it had gold hardware, and it was all Les Paul woods really. I mean, it was a mahogany back, mahogany neck, rosewood board, maple top, like a flame maple top. And I thought I love this guitar. I played it in a video. I was out there to film a video for the Riot Reloaded pedal, I think. So you can see that video. It's on YouTube. My demo I did at the Sir factory of the Riot Reloaded is me playing that guitar. And I kind of bonded with the guitar. And I thought, I never would think in a guitar that's a 25.5 scale guitar, Fender sort of scale guitar, with a bolt-on neck. I would have never probably even tried a mahogany body with a mahogany neck. More of the Les Paul wood thing. Yeah. But I played it and I thought the guitar sounded great and felt really good. And I thought, this is cool. But even though I thought it looked pretty cool, I thought it's just not my thing. Flames, I always want to see on a Les Paul, right. And on a S style guitar, I just like the more of a solid finish or something. So I remembered seeing Peter Frampton and who else? Lou Reed and a few other. Mark Knopfler, in the '80s with Pensa Sir guitars, which is where Sir had, that was where John first started. Was working at Rudy's Music in New York City on 48th, right? And they had a lot of success starting to make guitars. First, it was out of parts, and then they started making out of their own bodies and necks and stuff. And that was how John's name kind of came on the map in the first place, was those early Pensa Sirs for folks like Knopfler. And I remember seeing pictures of like Mark with a guitar that would look very similar to this. It was a S style guitar, but with I think his had a carved top on it, but it was I believe a hum single with the like a Floyd and stuff, and had binding. And I just thought it was a really classy looking guitar. Mm-hmm. Reminded me a bit of that Mahogany Deluxe that I played out at Sir that day. So I thought, and it was black. And so I thought, what if I get a black top? And I also had seen some of the Les Pauls that Gibson was doing around the time that had like a natural back with a black top. If you look up 57 mm-hmm. historic Les Paul black, if you see one, they've made a few like that where they have a black top, but you could see the wood on the back. And I thought that looks really cool with binding. So I thought, let's put all that into one guitar. Combine what I liked about that Mahogany Deluxe I played at Sir with my memory of what the Pensa Sirs looked like from the 80s. And then, and I thought, let's do this red, off red kind of, dark red thing. And it'll look like super classy and yet kind of racy. Not too flashy, but kind of flashy, So I spec'd out this is pre-discussion of any signature model or anything. I just spec'd out a guitar, and this is that guitar. So I got this in 2013 maybe, and I got it and I really loved it. And then about maybe 6 months later or something, they said, hey, we're thinking about doing some signature guitars. It was something they'd avoided for a long time. They had the Guthrie Govan signature, and I think Andy Wood had a signature, but other than that, they didn't really Scott Henderson, you could kind of spec out his, but it was, it's really a classic with like it's an S style with his specific appointments, but they actively wanted to go, pick a few other artists and do signature models at this point. And they said, would you be interested in making that guitar, this one, kind of the basis of a signature model with us? And I was like, hell yeah, that'd be an honor. I'd be happy to. I already had an amp with them at that point.
Okay.
And I'd already done the pickups. So these are Thornbuckers in this guitar. So I developed those and stuff. And so it seemed like a natural progression. So we made this into the signature model. The only real difference is you can see on this one, which is one that we came out with in a different color a couple of years ago. It's got pickup rings.
Right.
So my prototype didn't have rings on it. And rings was something they just didn't do on SIRS. And I was like, it kind of would be cool if we did rings. And they were sort of like, well, we don't really do that. And I'm like, that's a perfect reason to do it, because it'll set it apart from all your other guitars in your line.
Smart.
So we did rings. And so if you get a black one, it's got the rings on it, and it's available in 4 colors. And what else can I say about it? Every single detail pretty much is something that we discussed. The pickups were really born out of trying to make a perfectly balanced humbucker set that was versatile, and where you didn't feel like when you hit the neck pickup, you need to go back on your amp and turn up the treble. And when you hit the bridge pickup, it's like ice picky or something. I wanted them to balance. And I also was loving the kind of big overgrown Telecaster sound that I heard from folks like Jimmy Page and stuff that they could get out of a Les Paul. I was like, what's going on with that? Like, how do you get that out of a humbucker? And so that's what the pickups were. It's a combination of things like low wind, what magnets you use, mismatched coils and things like that to get all that stuff. So we wound until we found a set that achieved that, to where it was like you can hear it in my demo. I did a demo if you look up Sir Thornbucker, on YouTube, you'll find my original video for it, where I go through all the pickup positions in the context of a kind of a rock tune, and you can hear the balance between all the positions. And so that's what we're trying to achieve. What else? I think basically it's really, I inhabit a kind of an interesting world. Like, I think in the sense that my signature guitar, I feel like has to cover a lot of ground. It's got to cover a lot of bases, because I'm not somebody like John Petrucci or Steve Vai or something, where those guitars do too, but they've got a specific kind of a wild look, on Petrucci's guitars or Steve's guitars, because they are primarily artists. They can do whatever they want. They're going to go out there and Steve can put a, monkey grip in his guitar and have all the, crazy colors and stuff like that. I feel like with my guitar, because of my job, because I need to fit in at 1 minute with a certain type of artist, the next minute maybe with a different one, my guitar, it sort of reflects more like what you do. Like maybe somebody like there's a lot of similarity between what you do and what I do. If you were in a corporate band playing lots of different types of gigs, like what would be an appropriate guitar to play a wide style of music on, and have a cool kind of classic look, but maybe you don't want to have the, crazy, because you're not like, you know what I mean? Like
totally. That it can't be the show. It has to be part of the show.
Yeah. Because I might get a gig with an artist, and I'll show up and they'll be like, "You're not going to play that guitar, are you?" Where, it's got to kind of, I don't want to say you need to compromise, but I needed to come up with something that looked classic and also had what I wanted. So it's like, it's a fine line sometimes. So the guitar that I made and came up with really, I feel like reflects that. Like it's not going to freak anyone out. And it also has a really cool, like sleek, classy, look. And you can, of course, functionality wise, you can get a ton of sounds out of it. It's got a bunch of split coil positions, series parallel for the bridge pickup. So if I got to fly somewhere and take one guitar and cover a bunch of tones, I can do it with this one guitar. So it's just a great working, guitar player's tool. That was the goal, really.
That's awesome. It's funny and thinking of that question in my mind, because I asked that question to Yvette Young. I asked that question to Andy Timmons. It's a different tool. And for what you're doing, that makes perfect sense. I would have never thought of it that way, that it's just to do what it has to do without it being this big, flashy thing. And they're gorgeous. They're so classy and just perfect the way they are.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's been a great a great thing for me. The signature guitar. It's been I'm really glad we did it, and I can't wait to kind of see where we go from here because now I've got some more ideas and stuff. But I love doing it. And with the amp, I've got the PT15 and PT100, and they're similar in that way. Where with the 100 came out a number of years ago, it's a 100-watt 3-channel beast. It's awesome, super cool. It also is quite heavy and it's big, and maybe that's not like the trend's been towards smaller stuff these days and stuff. So that's why we came out with the 15. It's 24 pounds and it's got these great direct out features and stuff where you can plug it right into a recording console, no cabinet needed, but it's an all tube, killer amp with, plenty of volume and stuff. At 15 watts is almost, it's deceptive how much headroom it has and stuff like that. So I feel like we made a great tool for moving forward, the guitar player. Trying to come up with something that, because I love tube amps. I still love if it's possible. I don't know if I can get the computer around enough here to see, but my whole thing there is 4 heads, and then I got 5 more right here that you can't see beside it. I love tube amps. So it's we tried to make a tool for the modern guitar player that loves tubes and loves the concept of a traditional amp, but also moving forward a little bit, and that's the load box and the impulse responses in it and all that good stuff, so that it's got the combination of vintage but future.
Yeah, I was playing through your amps at the Sir NAMM booth because it's around here. I couldn't find any stores that had them, and I was blown away by the tone. And as we were saying before we jumped on live, with modeling stuff, I've had a Helix. I have the Axe Effects now for my home studio. I just got a Kemper. So I'm always trying to find that thing that's going to be plug it in and play, because I get lost in the modelers sometimes. Yeah. So to have an amp that's a real tube amp that has the impulse responses right there, that's just the best of both worlds, really.
That's my idea,
it's working.
Yeah, it's got 16 IRs in there that you can pick from. You can load your own if you want, but you don't ever have to. I mean, you'll probably, when you get it, you'll be like, this sounds good. I don't need to, it's a plug and play, and it's got 3 great channels, really easy. Just, you want more gain, you reach out and turn the knob. Yeah. I went and did a bunch of clinics with it, and that's what hey, you want more treble? You don't have to page through the menu. These new devices are fantastic. I mean, I think there's a place for everything. With Axe Effects and the Helix and Kemper and all these units, it's great. How can we make something that's, because now you've just got choice, how can we make something that's for tube amp people that has some of those features and is really versatile and stuff, but maybe for someone that still appreciates even young players. I mean, there's still a lot of young players. It's just, I'd say probably the majority is players with a pedal board that's fairly complex plugging into a simple 1-channel amp.
Right.
A lot of kids these days, what pedal do you use for drive, right? It's right. That never used to be it was well, I've got a Marshall.
Right, exactly.
The drive came from the amp, and then you maybe augmented it with a fuzz or a tube streamer or something.
Right.
But unless you were a Fender amp player. But a lot of, gain amps were, for many, many, many years, it was all about amps getting, from the 70s through the 80s into the 90s, it was, and to the 2000s, we went from, a high watt Marshall to more gained out stuff and Soldanos and stuff. And then, the dual rectifiers and the 5150s and all. It was all about, amplifiers were how you got your gain. And then all of a sudden we got to this a little more grab and go combo and pedal boards. And there's no right or wrong way. I mean, it's there's whatever you prefer,
I mean, when I was, touring more regularly, I was a Mesa guy, hands down, dual rectifier. I have a Triple Crown here, which I love. But the last very big gig we did with the band before things went crazy, we were playing up in Vermont, and they had a backline. They had a Fender Deluxe. And I was like, okay, I'm going to build a crazy pedal board, and I'm going to get all the sounds I need with different pedals, which is a really fun project. Costly project, but a fun project.
Right.
But it was so surreal for me because prior to that, I was always an amp guy, it's half stack or 2x12. And then like I said before, I went around a little bit with the Helix, but this was the perfect combination of things where I could have all my different sounds that I could still twist the knobs and have a kick-ass amp behind me that I could make louder with the knob as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's been the kind of you see deluxes everywhere or, similar,
like one sitting back there.
Yeah. They're great to have around. I've got a little Princeton sitting in here. And I got it for that reason because, I do a lot of these pedal videos and things, and folks, I've got my signature amp and everything, but a lot of times people are like, well, we don't want to hear the pedal through your, amp that, you know what I mean? Like we want to hear it through like a working man's
right.
amp
Something that's not colored and just
or even just like inexpensive.
Yeah.
Something that's, can you play it through something that's $500? Like the real, because folks don't always, have money for like expensive heads and things like that. That's not where their focus is. So they're like, I've got this combo. I want to hear it through that so that I can, in my world, I know what it sounds like. And I think that that's a total fair point. And so I've got a little Princeton here, one of those little Silverface 68 custom. Just because, and I've done nothing to it. It's just a stock speaker, and I just put it on 4 and run the pedals into it, and it sounds really cool. It's like a different sound, It's that kind of more MIDI combo, And with some, it's neat. It's a nice addition to the, the amps in here.
See, I feel like that's the thing that, again, being a school here, we have a case in the lobby where the students wait, and I have hundreds of pedals. And we let them take them out like a library.
Oh, great.
They want to borrow something. And I feel like part of me is giving them an opportunity to try something and hopefully buy it somewhere along the line. But at the same time, it's almost like I'm addicting them to a drug because the gear, it never ends. And with reverb and there's just access to so much. I play this crazy game with myself. My girlfriend hates it. And she's a singer. We do music together. So it's like she benefits from my illness. But I'll say, well, I'm looking for this piece of equipment. If I can find it under X amount of dollars, I have to buy it. And it's a game that I play with myself. And, it'll be like 2:00 in the morning. I'll go into the bathroom or something. And I'll just grab my phone. I'm like, oh, I had to. I'm sorry,
It's funny. There's a great, there's some videos about this online as well you can find. But because obviously I do a lot of, people are like, my significant other, my wife or whatever hates you because I'm always buying pedals because your videos and stuff. I hear that a lot.
Oh, yes. You are definitely one of my fixers. Thank you.
So, it's like a problem. I think I'm probably going to get like accosted one of these days. And my husband spent, life savings because of, you and your dumb videos. But I do, having made all these videos and stuff, I appreciate this Tom Morello thing. So he put out a video on this, and also I think I read it in an interview, maybe in Guitar Player, but he was talking about how he sort of used to be on that train a little bit, like maybe very early on, maybe in the late 80s or something, where he was trying this and trying that gear, and then he at one point just realized like this is never ending, and he didn't want to be on that train. So he had his pedal board, which had the Digitech whatever he's got on there, like a flanger and like a certain wah, and then he had his JCM 800 head, which is kind of like not even the desirable one. It's the 2-channel one from the 80s with the clean channel, and he had a PV 412 cabinet and his one guitar. And he said, I kind of set everything up and I turned all the knobs on everything until it sounded as good as I could make it sound, like for every single effect in the amp. And he's like, it wasn't even like a great sound. He didn't think it was just like a serviceable, like a good tone or whatever. He's like, all right, that's my sound. I'm done. And then he proceeded to write all the Rage material and Audio Slave and everything with that rig. And he added like a couple things to it, and that was it. I think he's got a Phase 90, and it's like the most basic, and he gets a lot of sounds. He's a guy known for crazy sounds, but he did it a lot with just maximizing that gear and, using Allen wrenches and things on the strings and his,
genius.
Stutter stuff that he does with the pickup switch. And he just made the most out of what he had and then used it. And I remember him talking also about how he had to play with another rig at some point in South America or something. I don't want to screw up the story, but I think it as the story goes, he didn't get a very good sound. He didn't really like it, but then he realized it's not really the fault of the gear. It's just that he didn't have the time with it. If that had been my rig, I would have been able to work with it and the music would have been slightly different. I just would have done the same thing, like the same process with that gear, maximize it to the point where,
it's incredibly true.
Yeah.
It's we you get to a gig and it has like a crate amp or something in the back line. You're like, oh God. But if you had the time to make it work, it's really in here where the sound is, and it's I'm guilty of it myself. I'll, like you said at the beginning of the conversation, you could tell the guitar player in the room because she's the one standing in the back looking down at your pedal board. But it could be 3 Boss pedals, and you can get the same effect as, Strymon and all these other incredible companies. But it's nice to have the options too. So it's really,
it's a bit of a, you could go down that rabbit hole, or you can choose to not to and just use what you've got. Some of the best tones, and I clearly remember I played with Don Henley for a while, and the first time I went in an audition for that gig was 2000. And I was rather, I was pretty young. I think I was 27 years old or something, and I remember being scared, like super scared, because it was like I didn't know, like, if I was going to get laughed out of the room or what, because that guy he was in the Eagles,
right,
like, legend, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I worked really hard on the songs, and I was able to bring in a bunch of musicians with me to play. He was hiring a whole band for that tour, and his MD was a friend of mine, the other guitar player, and he was the one that called me and said, "You want to audition, and you can bring in a band if you want to. He wants to hear about younger musicians." So I put together drums and keys and bass and myself, and then we all went in and played as a band with Frank, as he was the MD. And so I remember Will Hollis, the keyboard player, had this rack. It was like a 6-space with whatever he had in there for keyboard, sampler and his keyboard sounds and stuff. Well, the day that we went in to audition, was in a big soundstage studio in Culver City. It's like at the Sony Studios or something in Culver City. Like, not even it wasn't even like a typical music rehearsal. It was like a soundstage for movies. Wow. and I was just like, whoa, like, this is heavy, And
no pressure.
No pressure. Yeah, no pressure at all. So such pressure, And we went in to set up, and the day before, a group had been in there to audition as well. And I remember it was Greg Bissonette, and I think Matt Bissonette on bass, and Brett Tuggle on keys, these super heavy players that, I'd remember seeing Greg play with David Lee Roth and Brett as well in 1985 or whatever. And here I am 15 years later, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to audition the next day after those guys that I'd seen play big pro gigs when I was, a kid. I was nervous, and I remember seeing all the gear. Like, Brett had full racks of keyboard, just refrigerator racks of keyboard stuff with multi-tiers of keyboards. And here's Will coming in with his 1 controller and his 6-space rack, and I had my, my Marshall DSL 50, with the clean channel I primarily used with pedals or whatever, my little rack that I had with pedals and a pedal board or whatever. It didn't matter. We came in and we played, and we did really well, and we got a call back to come back the next week. And I almost got the gig that time. I was the runner-up. Peter Stroud ended up getting it, who was an amazing guitar player, plays with Sheryl Crow and and Don for a number of years. And that was the right call. We're friends and everything now. I was like, well, he hired the right guy. He was older than me and a little more experienced. But I was the runner-up for the gig at that point. And Will, the keyboard player that went in, he actually got the gig. And then he ended up becoming the Eagles MD. Wow. And so he's been doing it ever since. So from that day, that I always say, "You owe me sushi," because I got him the audition. he's been with Henley and then the Eagles ever since 2000, 20 years now. But anyway, real point of the story is he went in with his little keyboard rack that was like, and playing, and he had the parts so nailed and covered with whatever his little rig was in there that the gear didn't. Sometimes maximizing what you've got, if you really get deep into it, it's amazing what you can get out of it, I guess is my whole point of it. And
sure.
Sounds were enough to get him the gig, where the sounds weren't an issue. And this is the thing. Now here we are all these years later with Axe Effects and the Helix and how deep it gets and stuff. And we can be like, oh, is the Univibe in the Helix as good as a real one or whatever, the things, the minutiae we get into. But if you really learn to use what you've got, it's incredible what you can get out of this stuff these days.
Yep.
And if you figure out how to do things, I think I was showing you that I've got a sound up. I don't know if you can hear it right now or not. Why is it not working? Something happened. Muted. Oh, because the guitar's not plugged in.
Yes. The oldest problem in the guitar player's book.
Right? So I don't know if you can hear the sound.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something that I just learned how to do on the Helix, where I've got a sound up that's like just a kind of a clean compressed, and then on an A/B switch,
Wow.
So I just learned how to do that on the Helix, like within the same patch, AB2 sound, and then also have a looper, so that I can easily get like a loop recorded with the clean sound and then switch over to the dirty thing and play on top of it. And this is the type of stuff that I've had the Helix for years, but I've never had that exact thing. And I went in and put a little bit of time in. You know, I put a vibe and 2 different reverbs, one for the clean sound and one for the dirty. And it was like, oh, I can get these 2 great sounds within this one patch, create a loop, and then jam on top of it with the distorted lead guitar sound.
It's cool.
It's, yeah, like little things like that, where it's like, okay, I just had to spend a little bit of time, like, you know, I was always like, I wonder if I can do that. And then all I did was put in a little bit of time and I figured out how to do it. It's not like people are using this stuff these days, like the Helix, and, you know, it's got 2 paths. One where you can plug in a microphone and one where you can plug in a guitar. I mean, you see people doing things with loopers and then different effects on the vocal mic and stuff because there's 2 full chains going through it. This is crazy stuff that, like, you know, so we almost have no excuse, you know. It's like you can get one of these things and you can get so deep into it these days that you can almost do anything you can imagine. And if you can't, there's probably somebody that's figured out how to do it, and you can go online and find a way to. So I guess long-winded moral of the story is just like maximize what you've got maybe before selling it and buying something else and some endless search for the greatest sound.
Well, honestly, again, like freaking clockwork, you just answered what would have been my last question. Do the work. You can't buy this. You gotta, you know, what, you want to get better at an instrument, you got to do the work. You want to make your tone better, learn your gear, you know, and that's the most valuable lesson. That's like, we have that on a sign inside the school, do the work, because it's what it is.
Yeah, there's no substitute for time and practice and effort and searching. You know, like when I think about people, like specifically about tone, experimentation, folks like Brian May and Eddie Van Halen, and, you know, modern players like, you know, Matt from Muse or even Jack White or something. These people, they do a lot of experimentation to get the sounds, the different, you know, unique tones and things that they get. And they find their own unique signature things that kind of set them apart. Brian May with a AC30 and his weird homemade guitar asking Rory Gallagher a question at a gig post show once, like, how do you get that sound? He's like, oh, Brian, it's this little box, you know, the Rangemaster treble booster, and I put it in front of my amp and it drives the amp and makes it sound like that. And Brian's like, and he goes out and gets a AC30 and a Rangemaster, but with his guitar sounds different than Rory, right? You know? And then there's this whole and then he's, what if I did, you know, delays and stereo and do these crazy things that he does, you know? And he made the signature thing that's so unmistakably him from the first note. You know, this is the things that, you know, Van Halen too, with the way that he went about getting a sound. You know, guitars of the day didn't do what he wanted, so he hacks it and puts a humbucker in a Strat, and the trem didn't stay in tune, so he made the nut really wide slots with a brass nut and pre-locking tremolo and everything, and blocked it and made it stay in tune pretty good on a Strat style guitar with a humbucker, and ended up coming up with all that crazy stuff. You know, just experimentation. You know, pretty cool.
It's incredible. I fall down that hole all the time. Like, you know, watching videos of the history of this, because it's like, it's all taken for granted now. Like it's so often, you know, feels like, well, everything that could be done has been done, but that's so far from true, because just take a bunch of pedals and put them in an order that they're not supposed to go, and all of a sudden something new is happening.
Well, you had Yvette on your show. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And she's like a great example of, like, wow, like, you know, take somebody with a classical and piano and violin background,
right,
and then just take them away from music for a few years, and then go and give them a guitar, and then completely reinvent the way that it's played.
Yeah.
Just experiment, right?
Yep.
Because she's really into sounds and stuff too. So it's also her playing or tuning, you know, but that musical mind, you know, and then the way that it comes out with what, you know, she's chosen. The guitar is the chosen vehicle. I mean, you could probably hand her a ukulele, and whatever would come out would be also really interesting, you know. The way
we should try and make that happen.
Yeah. Right. I mean, just anything. I mean, I find these musicians that are kind of amazing that can do stuff like that. they can kind of pick up anything and make, my friend Jason Fries is kind of like that because his family, he's, brother Josh Fries, and their father is an incredible musician as well. And I've toured a little bit with Jason. His main gig is Green Day, but we did a tour with Jewel together. And he always blew me away because he could sit down behind the drums and he sounds like he's not really a drummer, but he like sounds like he's playing drums. He's like pretty good. And he could play, trombone, and you could pick up a saxophone and make it work. And he can play just pretty much anything. And kind of, it's like, it's just making music, experimenting,
Yeah. Just do it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Well, this has been so great. Thank you so much for the stories and the time and everything. Like I said, this is our first time streaming this way. So I don't think, I don't know, that it'll be okay, but thank you so much for your time. This has been so cool. And this will be out for others to watch it. We'll share it and everything, but stay safe out there, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Everything's, just coming to this room every day, and, it's Groundhog Day every day I'm in here, but I'm having fun. Get to mess around.
Me too. Same exact thing. I sit here and just more guitars seem to appear. PRS just did I've been affiliated with them since 2008. They just did a really cool artist interview with me last Friday. So that's been getting a lot of attention, and that's really cool. But
great.
Yeah, we're just living the life. And I look forward to more videos and turning me on to other things to buy.
Thank you, man. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And, love to do it again sometime.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Be well.
You bet. Thanks.
See ya.